which is, in my opinion, my top 3 parks to go to get you started hiking in Quebec. But the question remains, how do I get information and where do I go? Welcome to the EKadventure podcast, your place for information and engaging conversations about the outdoor adventures. Today, I want to talk to you about how my hiking journey here started in Quebec, hoping that it inspires you to do the same in your outdoor journey as well. And if you're coming to Quebec for the first time, be sure to stick around as I'll be covering everything you need to know to get you started, from how to find your hikes to my top 3 favorite parks that I believe is going to make you fall in love with Quebec's landscapes. So without further ado, let's get started. Visiting Quebec is different than settling in, like when I got here. It took me a while before I started asking around and reading online about how the outdoor world is perceived here. Luckily for me, people here love hiking and they're really friendly. This leads me to my first point, the community. Even if you don't know anyone here, all you have to do is go to Facebook, type hiking groups in Quebec, and join any or all of them if you want. The next step will be to ask your question and post it, so people will almost instantly reply, and it's incredible. Be sure to check though if you need to type your question in French, as some groups require that the communications be done only in French since we're in Quebec. This can be easily handled though with Google Translate or even an AI platform for those of you who like to use AI. In my case, however, as part of my integration, I learned French and started going out to meetups to practice the language. I also used that to my advantage on almost every hike I went on, to talk to people there and make outdoor Quebecer friends. So once you're in the community, whether it's on Facebook or on any other social media platform, it's easy to ask people to join you on your hikes, if you don't wish to hike alone, that said. Or you can even join others as well. Everyone's very welcoming. But let's say you don't want to join any of the communities out there and you just want to hike solo, which is good. But the question remains, how do I get information and where do I go? Well, I can tell you, as an occasional solo hiker myself, I use all trails for the majority of my hikes. However, when I want to look into more details about the mountain and contact information, I usually browse the trail's name and look for the website of the park or the organization handling the trail. 2 of the most common organizations here in Quebec are CEPAC, well known and widely referred throughout the province. It handles the national parks here. The other one is ZEC, pronounced as ZEC, which is a controlled wildlife area, different than the ones in the national parks. You can also check a third one, which are the regional parks that offer similar trail management as the national ones. I'll be linking their websites in the description for future reference. So how do I know all of this? Well, at the beginning, I was lost and completely confused. Some friends used to tell me everything is handled by one organization. Others told me that you can't even find interesting trails close to the city, which is completely crazy. I decided though to follow my intuition and went on searching and collecting information. Every time I went on a hike, I took notes of the park's name, its relation to what organization, what other trails are there, and any helpful information I can think of. I then started picking favorites, favorite park, favorite trail, even favorite location. I started discovering trails closer to the city and even more intense hikes further away from the city. It makes me right now want to talk about transportation, which is a very important subject when you want to hike through a big province like Quebec. But before I start doing that, I need to point something out. I had my car 3 months after I settled in. And that's because when I decided to live in Quebec, I saved a lot of money before arriving so that I can buy what's needed to start my journey. And I already knew about some trails close to the city, but I also wanted to go far and hike in remote places. And how do I go to those remote places outside of the city? Remember the Facebook pages that we talked about earlier? Well, you can always ask for help there every time you want to go to a remote place or somewhere outside of the city. Sharing a ride or carpooling is very, very common here. Another way for you to reach the remote places is by renting a car. So let's say you already know how to drive and have a legal permit that's approved in Canada, in Quebec, or in any other province as well, as long as you're within the legal right. You can use an application called Common Auto, which I'll be linking in the description. It's very simple to use and it's very useful. Let me know in the comments if you'd like me to talk more about this application on my future episodes. Let's say you don't feel like doing any of those. Well, the bus system between three major cities, Quebec City, Lévis, and Montreal, is very reliable. Though you need to check always the schedule because it can be different every time. One last thing I want to talk about, which is in my opinion my top 3 parks to go to get you started hiking in Quebec and familiarize yourself with its environment. Number 1, Jacques-Cartier National Park. This is one of the closest parks to Quebec City and it has over 35 hiking trails. Number 2, Mont Tremblant National Park. This park is famous and is really close to Montreal and it has over 107 hiking trails. This is a huge number of trails. And finally, Massif du Sud Regional Park. This park is close to the city of Lévis, which is close to Quebec City on the other side of the bridge, and it has over 35 hiking trails. This is exactly why I love hiking in Quebec. The network of well-maintained and protected wildlife makes every outdoor adventure fulfilling. Thank you for tuning into this episode of the EKadventure podcast. I'll be adding a link to my blog where you can follow my hikes. And if you like this episode, it will mean so much to me if you can subscribe. I hope my journey inspires you to lace up your boots and explore the trails of Quebec. Until next time, keep adventuring.